Eurozone inflation has risen to 9.1% in August, up from 8.9% the previous month.
That's more than treble the rate seen this time last year. The biggest contributing factor is the soaring cost of energy. Well, Melanie Debono is Senior Europe Economist at Pantheon Macroeconomics and joins us now. Thank you very much indeed. So what are the chances of Europe's current inflation levels actually hitting double figures?
Well, at this point, the good news in the data earlier today was that the energy rate already started dipping in August, and we think this will continue. The bad news is that the core rate increase probably has further to run, especially given the reversal of one of factors that have depressed the rate since June in Germany. However, although we see an increase in the inflation rate in the headline, at the moment, our model doesn't point to double-digit rates, but of course, we can never rule it out.
And which policies do you anticipate being put forward by the bloc as the winter closes in, energy bills continue to rise? Could we be looking at things like rationing?
Definitely. So the government's main issues at the moment in the eurozone is trying to control the cost of living. We've already seen some measures being pushed forward. So, for example, France has had an energy price cap for a while now, and Germany has offered loans to struggling firms. But more will have to be done. The European Commission, for its part, came out earlier this week proposing a windfall tax on energy companies that don't use gas to produce electricity but are still benefiting because of the way that the single market is formed. But again, it's unclear how these taxes will be collected and to whom the money will be dispersed. As we head into the winter months, we think it will get more and more difficult for gas energy supplies. So we expect Eurozone countries to have to push through with rationing, even though they've more or less reached their targets on gas storage levels, especially because Russian flows at this point have more or less dissipated to zero.
So the European Central Bank, whose headline inflation target is 2%, raised its key interest rates by an unprecedented 75 basis points last week, prioritising the fight against inflation. When could we see those further hikes, and what effects might that have?
So going forward, we expect the European Central Bank, which has come out recently and said, they will prioritise inflation over growth, basically because growth is fast slowing now. So we expect it to go again with another 75 basis point hike come October. And that will mean that the deposit rate, the main threshold rate that is tracked for the ECB, will have gone from minus 0.5% to 1.5% in just 4 months. And given where we think inflation is going to be in December at its then last meeting of the year, we think it will not take its foot off the hiking pedal and expect another 50 basis points, taking the deposit rate to 2% by the end of this year.
And is a deep recession inevitable, or could there be some chance of a soft landing?
Well, we think a recession in the eurozone is the most likely scenario at this point. So real wages are falling as inflation has surged and wage growth has not been able to keep up. And consumer confidence has tanked since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So we expect household spending to fall in Q3 and Q4. And we doubt that the fiscal measures that will be pushed through and that we expect to be pushed through will be enough to limit that. What's more, industry will be hit hard by energy rationing because it will probably be first asked to close in order to preserve energy so that consumers can actually heat their homes over the winter. And that's also not assuming a colder winter than usual.
Melanie Debono, Senior Europe Economist at Pantheon Macroeconomics. Many thanks indeed for that analysis.